It's you.
I
feel comfortable. Here we
Good.
are on the sofa, right?
Good morning. Welcome to Elysian Fields. We're here for our Q&A Friday with our very special guest, Sharon of Fermentlicious. She's a very dear friend of mine, and you guys are in for a treat. She is a wealth of kindness, warm, kind, healing energy, and so much knowledge. I would love for you to maybe introduce yourself, how you would like our audience to kind of get to know you and what brings you here today.
Well, you brought me here today, so thank you very much, Becca. It's a pleasure to be here at Elysian Fields, where they have all of these beautiful treasures and great books and so much to discover. I guess I was invited because of my company, Fermentlicious. I own a local company here called Fermentlicious, where I make raw, unpasteurized sauerkraut. Everything is organic, made with love, and I focus on immune health. Recently, I graduated the California College of Ayurveda with my doctorate in Ayurveda medicine, and I've been exploring that for the last 5 years. And today I'm just sitting down with Becca on the sofa, having a little bit of matcha and sharing whatever it is that comes up today. So thank you for having me.
Of course. Thanks for being here. So I have been both a friend and a customer of your amazing products for a few years now. What initially started your interest in not just fermented foods, but maybe just your journey of plant medicine or kind of that holistic approach? Was that something you always grew up with?
No, it's definitely not what I grew up with. I grew up on processed foods.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yes, thinking that candy was a food group.
Yeah.
I ate a lot of candy, and it wasn't until I was 29 when my father experienced cancer. He was diagnosed with cancer, and that was my first dive into why do people get cancer.
Yeah.
And that was a huge awakening to me, and I discovered a little bit about herbalism at that point in time, as well as food as medicine. There's a theory out there called the Gershwin theory, and I was exploring that, wanting my father to take that route in his healing, which he decided not to. And so that was the first introduction for me.
Okay.
And that was my introduction into my 30s, and things started to shift because I started to eliminate so much processed foods, the candy, the sugar, and I started eating more plant-based foods.
Okay.
So that's where it started. And then in my 30s, I thought I was being super healthy. In comparison, don't you love how we like to judge? We're all basing ourselves based on how somebody else is doing.
Right. Well, I'm not doing that.
Right.
So then I'm okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm okay. But in reality, I wasn't. And there was a wake-up call for me. I want to say I was 42, and my thyroid started to fail me. And
I've been hearing a lot of people deal with thyroid issues recently, and I don't know if that's... Go ahead.
I believe it's an epidemic. I really do believe that thyroidism is an epidemic. I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's. I was given a pill, Synthroid, to go home with and to take.
Super common.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Go home, take this. And I inquired, well, how long will I have to take it? And the doctor said that indefinitely.
And that's just like supposed to be okay. That's like the answer, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And at that point in time, I was already meditating into my yoga practice, and I went home and I took silence and I just went within. I was like, does this feel right?
Yeah.
And little did I know, I was communicating with my gut, which fermented foods is all about gut.
Oh my gosh.
health.
Yeah.
So
the phrase, like, trust your gut.
Follow your gut.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I did. I went within and I said, does this feel right? And it didn't feel right. So I started doing deep diving into how do I heal myself, and there wasn't a lot of information out there then. This was before podcasts started. This was before all of this information about gut health and the gut microbiome was out there.
Okay.
But I discovered Donna Gates, and Donna Gates, she is a pioneer with fermented foods, and she basically was saying that if you eat fermented foods, sugar cravings will go away. And I still had sugar cravings. As I mentioned early in my 30s, I stopped eating so much candy, but I was still eating sugar in other forms.
Yeah.
And it was like my one thing that I always wanted. And that really sparked something within me. I'm like, oh, a way to kill these sugar cravings, because I knew that if I changed my diet intuitively, I think I can heal myself.
Yeah.
So that really started moving me in that direction. And through Donna Gates, she's all about fermented foods. So I started looking for fermented food out in the marketplace.
Yeah.
And I tried everything that was out there. It's really important to have raw, unpasteurized fermented foods, and they have to be organic.
Can you explain what those two things actually mean? Like the definition, what does raw mean, and what does...
Raw means, so when you ferment something or you pickle something, there's a heating process that takes place so that it becomes shelf life stable. And that heating process actually kills the living microbes. So if you're getting a jar of sauerkraut on the at the grocery store on the shelf and it's not refrigerated, it is not raw, it is not unpasteurized. It's been heat pasteurized and it's no longer raw, and they've killed all the living microbes.
Okay, that makes sense.
And it's not a bad thing. They, it
allows shelf life, and that has a purpose, and
absolutely has a purpose.
But most people, including myself, didn't know that means negating all of the good nutrients that our body and our gut needs.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So unpasteurized, what does that mean?
It's the same as raw.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It hasn't been heat pasteurized.
Got it. Okay.
Heat pasteurized allows it to be shelf life stable. However, even if it's in the refrigerated section, there are some brands that have been heat pasteurized.
Is there something like on a label that we should be looking for?
There is, technically. So this I discovered as I was exploring and trying to find something that I should be eating.
Right.
There's a couple of brands out there. Obviously, I'm not going to mention them.
No.
But there are a couple of well-known brands out there that they don't state whether they're raw or unpasteurized, but if you go to their website, it says that it's been heat pasteurized, and therefore the living bacteria is no longer living. It's still a tasty little treat.
Yeah.
However, it doesn't have the beneficial bacteria to help change the gut biodiversity.
The medicine part of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So going back to, you started doing a little bit more research of what does, the raw and the unpasteurized, and when did you, it wasn't until you said in your 40s that you started using food as medicine, or really approaching it in that way?
Well, the fermented piece of it, In my 30s, I thought I was eating healthy, but then at that point in time, I discovered, there's a gluten sensitivity. There are these different sensitivities that I had, and I was taking a deeper dive into it. I was doing a food journal. I was having a deeper understanding, how foods make me feel, and every time we eat, we're giving our body information. We're either feeding the disease or we're healing the body. Food is information.
How would you recommend? I mean, I'm just going to use myself as an example, but I know there's probably a lot of people in our community that's just like, okay, I'm doing my best to take care of myself. I'm doing my best to give myself good, healthy foods. How do you recommend starting that process? For me, like you said, sugar's it's so hard to kick. I have it in my morning coffee. Before I go to bed at night, I get a little sweet tooth. How do you recommend beginning that process?
Well, it can be overwhelming. You just saying it, I could feel your overwhelm, just the very idea of it. And it is very overwhelming, this path that I've been on, or many people have been on. And it's honor the process. First and foremost, we have to honor the process and understand that things take time, and that you have to make the commitment to yourself to do it. And for me, the key for me was the fermented foods. It really helped with the sugar cravings. You eat because what it does, it's changing the bacteria in the gut. So you're not having the craving, it's the bugs in the belly that are having the craving. So you have more bacteria in the belly that's craving the sugar. It's based on the foods that we're eating. That provides the feedback to the brain, and that creates the craving. So if you have fermented foods, that changes the beneficial bacteria in the gut, and now these signals that are being sent to the brain are different.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
The microbes in our belly are totally fascinating. When we think we're this human being, but we have so many bacterias within our body. It's overwhelming. More bacteria cells than actual human cells. And I like to say that twice, because
That's wild.
Yeah, the first time I heard that, I was like, wait a second, we have more bacteria than actual human cells? I mean, sit on that and digest that for a moment.
Yeah. And that we can be in control of what kind of bacteria cells those are.
Absolutely. So to go back to your question, the first thing in the morning, it's really important what we put into our belly, because that kind of governs how we'll move forward in the day. So if we're starting with sugar, then all day long, that's going to be the story. Those bacteria are going to say, I want more sugar. I want more sugar.
That was good. That was good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So tweak it in the morning, and maybe start with a little bit of honey. What type of sugar are you using?
Starbucks latte
sugar. Yeah. Pure candy.
Yeah. Dessert in the morning.
Yeah. You definitely have to start there. And I used to be that person. I used to do lattes every morning. I used to do the soy, and then the soy messed with my hormones, and that was another piece of the puzzle where I was like, okay, this isn't feeding me at my highest purpose. So I need to make that shift. And it's such a huge shift because it's part of your morning routine. But you have the power to change your morning routine.
Like, we've done harder things.
Yes.
Yeah, like for me to go and, make a matcha instead of driving to Starbucks, like, I've done harder things than that.
Yes, you have.
I can convince myself that I am capable of doing that.
Yeah.
And my body will thank me for it.
It will, and you'll make different decisions throughout the day.
That's big.
Yeah. And the microbes within our belly, within 3 days, they change.
That quick?
That quick.
Okay, I can do it for 3 days.
Yeah, so by changing what you eat for just a few days, it starts to have an accumulative effect where you start to make different decisions.
Okay, I'll give you 3 days. Check back Monday.
Then you have to eat a little bit of sauerkraut while you're doing that as well.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about the sauerkraut.
Yeah.
So you started, doing this, research for yourself and the thyroid and all those things. What began the business side where you wanted to help heal other people?
Well, it wasn't a business at first. That wasn't the whole idea. So as I was searching for the perfect sauerkraut, I couldn't find something that I liked.
Okay.
And so I was like, okay, let me try making this. And this was the first flavor that I made. It wasn't called Curry Love at the time, but I was so into curry, pardon me, and I made a sauerkraut with some curry in it. And at the time I was leading a meditation class, and I made enough, and I started sharing it with the people that were in my class. And as I was learning information, as I was learning about gut health, as I was learning about fermented foods, I was sharing that with them as well. And so once a week, they started eating it. They started to feel different, and I was playing with different flavors. And after about 6 months, my thyroid numbers came down. And
that's quick.
Yeah, and they weren't where they needed to be, But within 14 months, I made the change where the doctor was like, okay, you're fine. You don't need anything at this point in time. No Synthroid, which I never did take.
Okay.
I listened to myself and I said, okay, let me change this. How can I change this? And every week, everyone was trying my sauerkraut. They started to feel better. They wanted to buy it. I was like, please just take it, because I was testing and I was having fun with it and I was learning about it. And it was great to see and hear how they were feeling. They were feeling different, and that to me was huge, because I was offering this donation-based meditation class so people could feel better. And now they're feeling better also in their bellies, which is impacting their minds, which is impacting every aspect of their life. So that's how it all...
Very cool.
Yeah, it was really natural, and it was the people at that class that continued to say, you need to make this. You need to make this. And I was like, I don't want to make sauerkraut for everyone. That wasn't what I was thinking I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And honestly, then I went on a soul's journey, and I went to Peru, and I had this amazing experience, and I was shown that I needed to provide this for my community. And when I returned at that point in time, I didn't have any formal training in fermenting, but I knew that this was something I needed to bring back to the community. And from that moment on, I decided to take a fermenting class, because if I'm really going to try to do this, then shouldn't I be trained? So I did take a year course on fermenting, and we did all types of fermenting, from natto to
I bet that got kind of
miso.
weird
Yeah.
sometimes.
Oh, yeah. It was wild.
Yeah.
And each month we would focus on different things, and it was so cool. And it was cool to learn about the different cultures and learning about different history of fermented foods. But what was interesting at the end of the class, I really didn't learn anything new about fermenting. I didn't change the way in which I was fermenting.
It was so intuitive.
It really was intuitive. And however, now I'm, at least I've gone through some formal training.
Important.
Yeah.
When you're providing food that other people are going to ingest. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was a piece of the puzzle with the Department of Agriculture. They wanted to know if I had any training as well. So I did have some training. I really feel that everything that I do with Fermentlicious, it's about the intention of it. Like, what is my intention? And I always say intention is our key ingredient, because my intention is to make food that is of high vibration, that tastes good, and that is nourishing and healing to the body. And that's why I started doing it for myself. And truly, that is my intention, why I'm doing this for the community. So I work in the kitchen on Mondays. I shred about 500 pounds of cabbage, and I have one person who helps me, and we start our day in the morning with a meditation, with just grounding ourselves, breathing into it, setting a healing intention that whomever consumes the food, may they receive the healing, the light, and the love that they need. And it is very intentional. So it's
full of love.
That is so important.
Yeah.
Love is everything. There's love, there is fear. I choose love.
And if everyone put intention behind what they're putting in their body, the words that are coming out of their mouth, what they, how they walk into work in the morning, it is that intention. And it's so easy to go into autopilot and just eat whatever's convenient, eat what's in front of us. We're not even paying attention. We're on our phone or watching TV. It's so easy to just, autopilot through the day. But it's putting that love intention behind it, or the healing intention behind it. It's tangible. It has a vibration.
Indeed.
Like you're saying. And just, I feel like that has to be part of the reason why your business has been so successful. So you're in Whole Foods. Where else can we find Fermentlicious?
Crop Juice.
Okay, love them.
Love them. Morton's Market.
Okay.
Green Zebra, they were the first company to actually feature my product 6 years ago.
Okay.
Super Nutrition, or Special Nutrition on Stickney Point.
Okay.
Where else can you find it?
I know I visit you at Farmers Market.
And then there's, of course, the Farmers Market. Every Saturday I'm at the downtown Sarasota Farmers Market. I'm located on Lemon and State Street. I feel like I'm in a few other places in Sarasota, but of course it's escaping me.
Yeah.
And there are a few places within St. Pete and Tampa as well.
Congrats, that's
Thank
amazing.
you. Yeah, thank you.
Growing your branches.
Yeah, not too far. I had the opportunity recently to expand what I'm doing, and I really sat with it and said, is this something that you want to do? Do you want to reach more people? But I knew that that would change what I'm doing in the kitchen, and that didn't feel right. I really want to keep my initial intention and why I started doing this and ensure that it doesn't change, because sometimes when we get bigger, what we started with starts to change, the vibration, the energy of it starts to change, and I'm not ready to do that. I don't know if I'll ever be ready to do that, but I'm not ready today.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Thank you.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
So do you want to try, are we allowed to try
for
some?
sure, absolutely.
So you said this was your original one.
That's the OG, the Curry Love, absolutely. The Healer is my bestseller.
I think that's the one
it fights inflammation. So a couple of things about fermented foods.
Yeah.
They ferment for 4 weeks. 1 jar is equivalent to 8 bottles of probiotic pills.
8 bottles?
8 bottles of probiotic pills.
So if I so I have my bottle of probiotics, I take one every day.
Yeah.
So times that by however many in the bottle times 8, I could replace it with just one.
Food is paramount for sure. So when you think about a probiotic pill, there are some benefits to it. But when you take that pill, the acid within the stomach breaks it down, it dissolves. It might have a little bit of an impact on the small intestine. However, you never get that beneficial bacteria into the large intestine and to the colon. The colon is very important to pull that beneficial bacteria all the way through the large intestine. You need the fiber of the food to pull it all the way through the entire GI tract. So when people take a probiotic pill, initially they start to feel, oh yeah, I do feel a little bit different. But long term, you need the fiber of the food to take it all the way through.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so all of these ferment for a minimum of 4 weeks, small batches, clay containers, 5-gallon containers. So as you can imagine, I play around with a lot of 5-gallon containers. And when you ferment any of the spices, so for example, the Healer has the ginger, turmeric in there, it now becomes 30% more bioavailable. So you think about these 2 spices, the root, being great for inflammation. Well, when you ferment it, those spices become 30% more bioavailable, meaning that your cells absorb it faster, meaning that it goes deeper into the tissues. It has more of an energetic impact on the body versus just taking it unfermented.
Interesting.
Yeah, and all you need is 2 forkfuls with meals. So you could have it with eggs, sandwiches, salads. I love to eat it on top of pizza because it helps to digest that pizza.
Right. Okay.
Right. Occasionally you want to have some pizza.
Pizza's great.
Yeah. It has to
We're
be
human.
We are human after all. So you think of it as a high-grade condiment. A little bit goes a long way. And I have people out there that are like, is it wrong if I eat the whole jar? Like from a business standpoint, I love it, but it's not ideal. I mean,
that's going to give you a bellyache.
Depending on the individual, absolutely. And when you first start eating fermented foods, some people experience gas, and what that is, that's die-off. So the good guys are killing the bad guys in the gut, and it's creating a little bit of the stinky gas.
But that's part of the process.
It's part of the process, but it also means, you know what, maybe I should back off a little bit, have a little bit less. You don't want to go in there and do chemical warfare to your gut. It's a slow, gentle process.
Okay.
Take your time, ease into it, and enjoy it.
I remember because I haven't come and seen you at Farmers Market in a little bit.
I
know. But when I would literally take it as a forkful with my medicine at night. Like it was part of my regimen.
Yeah.
And I think that's how it started. And I do have a sensitive gut, so I wanted to work my way up through then, and then I didn't. I know. It's that consistency thing that I'm working on.
Routine is everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, eating the ferments with food is ideal. You have all of those digestive enzymes in there. It helps to support the pancreas when you eat it, and your pancreas doesn't have to produce or secrete as many enzymes because you have all of these digestive enzymes. It also helps you assimilate the nutrients that you're consuming. So most of us might be eating these beautiful meals that are nutrient dense, but we're not absorbing it. And there's a couple of reasons why we're not absorbing it. You already touched on it. When we're on our phones, when we're distracted and we're eating, anytime we're on our phone, we're in fight or flight mode. And when we're in fight or flight mode, the body can't assimilate and digest the food that we're taking in. So, creating the sacred space of every time we're taking food into the body as an opportunity to nourish our temple is a shift that all of us need to make so that we're able to absorb those nutrients. We're able to digest the food that we're consuming. We feel satiated after we're finished eating. That's a big piece. We're so distracted and we think, well, you know what? I'm going to eat, I'm going to do an email, and I'm going to paint my nails. I certainly hope not. But, multitasking isn't ideal when we truly think that every time we eat, we're feeding the body medicine. I mean, it is our fuel. If you think about your body as a Ferrari or some beautiful car, what type of fuel are you going to put into this car? And we need to give our bodies, our minds, our spirits so much more credit than that we are these amazing beings.
We are.
And we really need to fuel our bodies properly.
I'm just so grateful to get these reminders this morning.
So you definitely want to have a little bit with your meals.
Okay. Got it.
I'm going to give you the healer because I know that's what you like.
It's my favorite.
It is the favorite.
I like the ginger.
Oh, you can smell it. There it is. And what's so fascinating about the ferments that I've learned over the course of the last really 5 years making it at this larger capacity is seasonally the ferments change. So right now the ferments are a little bit crunchier. And in the winter, they tend to be a little bit softer. And from an Ayurvedic perspective, our digestive fire isn't as strong in the winter. So I think that's just nature doing her thing, where it's easier to break down when it's softer and our digestive fire isn't as strong. So this batch here, it's got a good crunchy, right?
It's
fascinating.
Facebook, you didn't see that. Very good. So this one has what all comes in this one?
This is cabbage. Everything is organic. I think I mentioned that. I think organic is a big conversation that we all need to start having.
Okay.
And I do want to touch on this because people who visit me at the market, I talk about organic all the time, and there's a conversation around organic that it costs more and it has no real impact if we're not eating organic. But when we think about organic versus non-organic food has been sprayed with some pesticide. I'm not going to mention any names.
No.
But it's been sprayed with a pesticide, and by design, that pesticide is intended to kill what?
Bacteria.
Bugs on the plants.
Yeah.
So now it's in the plant, it becomes systemic, and we're eating that food. Every time we eat food that isn't organic, we're taking in food that systemically is intended to kill the bugs. So we're killing the bugs in our gut. And the more biodiversity we have in our gut, the healthy we are. So we think about our guts like the soil. Like when you have really nutrient-dense soil, our plants, our veggies, everything can thrive. When the soil isn't nutrient-dense, it's depleted of certain nutrients. So we have to think about our guts that way. When we eat non-organic foods, we're killing those beneficial bacteria in our belly. So organic food is so important because it hasn't been sprayed with those harmful pesticides.
That's just a very clear visual, I feel like, way of explaining organic and what that means. Because you're right, it is a very complex, very...
And I know there's conversation that it costs more, it costs more to do this. And
that's not always available to everyone.
Right. But if we start changing, when we start asking and requesting it and demanding it, then perhaps we'll stop spraying as much. Perhaps things will start to shift. The only way for things to shift is for the consumer to request it. And so for people who can, afford to pay couple extra dollars for organic, do it and think about it. Like I think about what I eat as my health care. Rather than worrying about health care, I think about the food and what I'm putting into my body. That's building my immune system. That's going to make me stronger. Therefore, I don't need the pharmaceutical, the Synthroid, to ensure that I stay healthy. It's the food that I'm eating that keeps my body healthy, that keeps me in living this purpose.
Yeah, it is healthcare. I love that analogy. Yeah,
we could pay more for healthcare.
It's one or the other. Your money's going to be spent. Exactly.
And honestly, it's cheaper when you invest in the food that you eat.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. You touched on it, but I do want to brag on you a little bit. You do have your doctorate. All right, so you graduated within the last year?
I did.
Yeah, tell us about Ayurvedic medicine. What is that to people that don't know?
Oh, it's there's a lot to unravel, but Ayurveda basically means the science of life. And Ayurvedic medicine is working with an individual based on their needs, and it's from an elemental standpoint. So most people would know it from a dosha perspective, vata, pitta, or kapha. Those doshas are made up of the elements, and ultimately it's treating the individual based on the imbalance that they have. So here's a great example that I love to use. If somebody so all disease begins with indigestion. From an Ayurvedic perspective, all disease begins with indigestion. And ultimately that's how I found Ayurveda, as I was on this mission to learn more about the gut, and I wanted more information, but it wasn't out there. 5-6 years ago, I saw this quote that all disease begins in the digestive system, and it was an Ayurvedic doctor, and I was like, oh, this is where I need to go next. And what that tells us is our body's giving us feedback. Every time we eat, if we are having gas or heartburn or gas in either direction, that's feedback. Our bodies are telling us something. And if every time we eat we have heartburn, that's too much fire within the body.
Okay.
So that's one signal. Like, okay, this is feedback. Listen to me. You need to change what you're doing. But most people don't change what they're doing. They'll take a pill, or they'll just barrel through it, and I could do this, and they continue to drink the coffee or continue to have the spicy food, and we're humans.
Yeah.
But then what happens is that starts to relocate, and that becomes a bigger problem, and now it's full-blown acid reflux. And then that happens for several years, and then you have that acid reflux going on. Your doctor gives you a pill, or you're taking Tums all the time, and you think that you're managing it when really you're just putting a Band-Aid on a wound that is continuing to grow. You're not getting to the root problem. And in Ayurveda, you get to the root problem. Well, eventually, if you don't listen to your body's feedback, that's going to manifest into esophageal cancer.
Yeah.
And that starts to change the whole game, and that's when people start to wake up and they say, okay, what's happening to me? And we have two paths in which we could go down. We could go down the path of taking chemotherapy, or we could change our diets, and things can turn around. Honestly, I mentioned my health started to change when my father was diagnosed with esophageal cancer.
Yeah.
Back then, it was a death sentence. it's no longer a death sentence.
Yeah.
Because there's so much information, and people have proven that if we're eating properly and we're changing the information that we're putting into our body, the food that we're putting into our body, we can heal the body. By design, the body wants to heal. When provided the proper environment, and this goes back to Ayurveda, because when you're focused on the elements and you're creating that proper environment for your body, for your constitution, whether it's eliminating some of the heat, adding more water into it because that's the right chemistry for your body, that's when the body has the proper environment and it's able to heal.
So fascinating.
We are plants. We are nature. We are all made up of these 5 elements. And when we get that right balance, the body is able to thrive.
That's so beautiful. I feel like the more and more I go through my own spiritual journey and practice and delving into different, meditations or plant medicine, and now learning from you, I come back to that. We're all just plants. We're all just the same. And if we start to view ourselves no different than the trees, and this sounds so woo-woo, but we need the nutrients in the soil. We need to, in my kind of body positivity work that I do, view ourselves just as beautiful as the plants and how diverse we are. And we all do need different things, and we all do look different and require things different. And just, I think that message that we are made up of the same vibrations and the same energies as the plants around us, and if we just nourished ourselves as much as we nourish our trees and our plants and our pretty flowers, that we can all flourish.
It's beautiful.
It is. It's so beautiful, and it sounds so woo-woo, but it's like, that message is just, has been, I continue to come back to it, and that has to mean something.
Yeah, I think woo-woo is a good word. I mean, we think woo-woo is like a weird word, but it's a positive word. And when we really just connect with nature, we honor our planet, we honor our bodies. I mean, she wants to heal. The Mother Earth will prevail. That is the one thing that I've learned during this lockdown, is allowing Mother Earth to heal. She's going to prevail. Humanity might not. I don't mean to sound so doom and gloom, but Mother Earth will prevail.
Yeah, she's gone through worse.
She's gone through worse, and our bodies are the same. If we allow the time, the space, and we feed it the proper nutrition, our body will thrive.
That's so powerful. So powerful.
Are you feeling better? Are you feeling those beneficial bacteria?
Gosh, I just am so radiant. I feel it. I don't even want my coffee that's waiting back in my desk. Not even thinking about it one bit.
No, not at all.
Do we have any questions coming in, Tony? Not yet? Okay. I am very curious. So you said this was your first one. And has the curry love. And other than the most beautiful color, tell me about curry.
Well, curry has a little bit of everything in it. Curry is a traditional Indian spice, and there are a lot of benefits from curry. You've got a little bit of cumin in there, a little bit of turmeric, ginger, coriander. It's a whole mix. Curry is a whole mix. So you've got all of those digestive herbs in there. Okay. They're also carminatives. They help with gas, bloating. And there's a little bit of ginger, some ginger root in the curry love. It is divine. This one actually it has this buttery texture to it.
Can I try it?
Of course. Absolutely.
Just in comparison to the one that I just keep saying is my go-to. Maybe it's just because I haven't tried the other yet.
You have to be a lover of the curry in order to like that one. Let me get that.
But the color is just so
I know,
so
and the
good.
smell. I absolutely love it. So think about this with eggs, with a little bit of spinach on the side.
It is different.
It is.
Almost like mustardy.
Yeah. I do have a mustard, which is wonderful. The texture of it, something's really buttery about it. I absolutely love it. There's a local restaurant in town called Leela, and they used to carry that on their macro bowl.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's so flavorful.
It has a lot of flavor to it. Would you like to try the kimchi?
Tell me about kimchi.
Well, kimchi, it's interesting. When people come to see me at the farmer's market, they always inquire about kimchi because people think that kimchi actually has more beneficial microbes than the sauerkraut, but it's equally the same.
Okay.
Yeah, the kimchi, you've got some daikon, carrots in here, cabbage, green onions, a little bit of spice to it, just a different texture.
So it's the same process, but just with different vegetables.
Just different vegetables. So
Okay.
you do get, the difference between the kimchi versus the sauerkraut is the biodiversity. So you get biodiversity every time we eat different plants, every time we eat different foods.
Right.
There's diversity within those.
Ooh, it has a kick.
Excuse me.
Wasn't expecting that, sorry. Yeah. Whew.
Oh
A
no,
little kick.
I have a little tickle in my throat.
The two of us are quite a pair right now.
Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, Facebook Live.
Mm-hmm. We're live here from Elysian Fields.
Yeah. All right.
I think I like the sauerkraut better.
Yeah.
But that's the beauty of it. You have so many options.
So many options, so many flavors. Come down, check me out at the Sarasota Farmers Market. It's delicious. It's divine. I'll answer any of your questions.
Yeah, I'm just so pleased to like spend time with you today. Very, very dear friend of mine. We took our yoga teacher training together.
Actually, you took the yoga teacher training. I led part of the
That's
yoga.
true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. I just know you were always there.
Yeah.
And you would come bring us samples.
I would, yes. Yes.
But thank you so much. And we would love to have you back and just keep learning and growing from everything that you have to share.
Well, thank you, Becca. I appreciate the invitation and the opportunity.
Yeah.
Thank you, Facebook.
Thank you. Have a good Friday.